right. Good afternoon to the listening audience. Welcome to Money Matters, where we explore the financial forces shaping our region. Today, as we kick off Women's History Month, we celebrate the contributions of women in leadership, especially in industries that drive both our culture and economy. One such industry is Carnival, a festival that is deeply rooted in Caribbean heritage, but also a powerful economic force. Across the region, Carnival generates millions of dollars in revenue, and it does the same for St. Kitts. It fuels tourism and sustains thousands of jobs, from mass designers to costume makers to musicians, vendors, and promoters. Festivals like Sugar Mass is more than just revelry. It's an economic engine that supports livelihoods. In St. Kitts and Nevis, Sugar Mass has grown significantly over the years, and I think everybody will agree, evolving from a grassroots celebration into a structured, highly anticipated festival that draws support not just from locals, but also international visitors. It's an event that injects money into nearly every sector: our hotels, our restaurants, transportation services, small businesses. With sponsorship, increased ticket events, and rising participation costs, now there's a growing debate whether Carnival is becoming too expensive or too commercialized. Many revelers now spend hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars on costumes, event passes, but at the same time, there are concerns about accessibility. So is Carnival still for the people, or is it pricing out those who built its legacy? Right, and that's why, and another key factor here too is tourism. Sugar Mass is now being, like many other Caribbean festivals, positioned and marketed as a tourism driver. So visitors are also contributing significantly through the booking of flights, filling our hotel rooms, and spending at local businesses. But as we've seen globally, tourism is dependent on economies. Tourism dependent economies are sometimes vulnerable. Its international travel slows down or economic downturns hit, like we saw with COVID. Well, what happens to Carnival again? And that's why strong leadership matters. A festival of this magnitude requires vision and planning and strategic financial management. So today, I am honored to be joined by Shannon Hawley, chairwoman of the St. Kitts Nevis National Carnival Committee. She's at the forefront of shaping Sugar Mass, ensuring that it remains both a cultural staple and a thriving economic force. A woman in leadership. As a woman in leadership, her role is particularly significant as we celebrate Women's History Month. For decades, women have played vital roles in Carnival, from the designing of costumes to the management of events. Yet they are often underrepresented in the conversations about the financial and operational side of the industry. So today, I'm so happy to have you with me, Shannon. So first of all, thanks for being willing to join. And let's get into the conversation. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. And thank you for having me. It's been some time in the making, so I'm glad that we actually finally made it happen.
Yes. I'm very excited to have this conversation, and more so because, I mean, no one can question the significant rise in the appeal of Sugar Mass, and we're going to talk about that today. But before we do that, I want to learn a little bit more about you. It's Women's History Month, so let the audience learn a little bit about your journey. How did you get into event management, and was Carnival leadership always something that you aspired to do?
I think when we start to talk about this, I'm reminded of my age, but I've been involved in events for the past 30 years,
Oh wow.
ever since I was 15. And, event management has always been something that I have enjoyed thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition, not to go all the way back and take you all the way back, but in addition to being the chair of the St. Kitts Nevis National Carnival Committee, I'm also involved in or the owner of Express Events,
Yes.
and we have been doing the St. Kitts Music Festival VIP for the
Mm-hmm.
past 16 years this year.
Oh
So
wow.
it's really been Yeah, it's really been some time and quite a while with me doing events, etc. It's my second stint being the chair of Carnival. The last time I did it, it was quite some time ago when I was much younger
Okay.
and with more energy. But nevertheless, I think with a great team behind you, Carnival has been growing leaps and bounds, and I'm really happy and excited to be part of it for the past 5 years.
Oh, it's been 5 years already.
Yes.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow.
2020. Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
so
This year is five.
with it being 5 years, I mean, you were the chairwoman during COVID, correct?
COVID.
Yes.
Correct.
How was that
I was,
experience?
well, I think that it was because of COVID that kind of put Sugar Mass not on the map, but it highlighted St. Kitts Carnival because when there were so many carnivals being cancelled during COVID, we were able to find a way.
Okay.
We were able to find a way to market a hybrid version of Sugar Mass during that time. And everybody was in lockdown, and we did, you know, a virtual carnival where it was streamed to millions of people around the world. And I think that uh, year or those 2 years, we were able to promote and market Sugar Mass, and we got that publicity during that time.
Okay.
So it was great for us to be able to do that hybrid version, and in terms of production, fine tuning production, etc., which you would not normally do with events that are not necessarily streamed, but that year it started the overall streaming of Sugar Mass and ensuring that our production quality was top
Oh
tier,
yeah, it's been
and it really
amazing. It's been
made a
amazing.
difference. It really made a difference.
So far the story is incredible because Sugar Mass has transformed over the last 5 years. Um,
Really.
it's such a massive event. So I'm curious as how you find that balance between being creative, the financial responsibilities of an event like that, the logistical aspects of it. How are you able to manage and balance all of that in your capacity as
I
chairwoman?
think every single year I say never again because it's like childbirth. It is so hard, right? It is
Uh,
so hard in those couple months, and it moves. I think we have to realize that Sugar Mass has evolved from just a 1 month or 2 months of planning to an annual. It is an all year planning event from marketing to execution. So it's a lot of work involved in Sugar Mass. The executive committee is made up of a group of volunteers,
oh wow,
right?
that's an
So
important
we
word,
have to also,
volunteers.
inclu- including myself, so we also have to take that into consideration that all of us have jobs. So it really is a balance, trying to find that balance. And as the event continues to grow, I think that is one of the major challenges, that it is being led by a team of volunteers who have full-time jobs. And from an administrative end, we have the National Carnival Secretariat, and we have to ensure that secretariat's responsibilities continues to grow, because that secretariat must take the lead
Yeah,
when
yeah.
it comes to administrative duties and tasks for Sugar Mass. Too much is being placed on the group of volunteers. And even though it's done and it looks easy, it's very, very difficult. And it continues to be, difficult for us to manage both work and the event.
That's incredible because I did not realize. Well, obviously I know the people on the committee have other jobs, but I didn't realize that there was also volunteerism there in it. So
Yes,
this is just passion. This is just civic
yes, it
responsibility
definitely
giving
is.
back. Interesting.
It definitely is. And especially, in 2025, you don't see that. And I mean, I think it must be highlighted because automatically people expect, to be paid for anything that that is being done.
Yeah.
But yeah, the team is a group of volunteers. It's a voluntary position.
You know, and that was actually my question that was going to be next. What's the one thing about organizing carnival that people don't see or really appreciate? And you just answered it right there.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is managing such a wide cross section of individuals. You know, you have
Mm-hmm.
to realize that Sugar Mass is not just about a 3-day event. And when it's done, it's done. It takes weeks and weeks well, it takes place over weeks and weeks, and it is from managing, calypsonians
Oh
to
yeah, all those events.
vendors,
Yeah.
street cleaners. It's a wide cross section of stakeholders. I mean, as you said in your intro, Sugar Mass affects everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It affects the entire cross section of St. Kitts and Nevis, the community. So it's a really major undertaking, and it's the single largest event on our national calendar, annual calendar.
That's why I'm still stunned that it's volunteered, because something of such magnitude and importance, especially that is now being, I know it was always positioned as a tourism driver, but I think even more so now as we see a lot of influencers talking about Sugar Mass. I think that's a change, and I agree with you completely that the secretariat needs to take some of that lead and that pressure off of you guys. I want to ask you this as from your perspective, and I hope you'll be as boastful as you possibly can, right? But how has Carnival evolved under your leadership? And what changes, what are some notable changes that you introduced or you and your committee introduced?
Well, firstly, Carnival has always been amazing in St. Kitts and Nevis. Sugar Mass has always been amazing. To those who have experienced it, always enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Always speak about specifically, particularly our Juve in the past. We have always been commended
Mm-hmm.
for having an amazing Juve.
Yeah.
However, I think that over the past few years, what we have done is, um, production wise, we have stepped up, and also we have brought Sugar Mass to the doorsteps of so many uh, carnival lovers, regionally and international, as well as our returning nationals, by bringing in influencers,
Mm-hmm.
foreign media, media from regional media, who were able to promote Sugar Mass. In addition, our carnival bands, mass bands, have also stepped up significantly. In the past, we never had the amount of people who would actually go on the road
Mm.
and participate in the mass. If you speak about Trinidad Carnival, or you speak about St. Lucia Carnival, you speak about Dominica Carnival that's going on right now,
Mm-hmm.
you always hear individuals speak about those 2 mass days, those 2 days that they are able to actually go on the road and participate
Mm-hmm.
in the street activities. You never really hear them speak about the lead up to. When somebody says, when is Trinidad Carnival? You go into your calendar and you look for the 2 days
Mm-hmm.
that Trinidad Carnival, the street activities take place. And so for us, our mass bands, who have all really stepped up and catered to that international audience and do their own marketing as well as the fets, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
they have also contributed significantly to the rise of Sugar Mass. And with our media and getting our publicity and teaming up with the Ministry of Tourism and the Tourism Authority, it has worked well for us, specifically over the past 2 years,
Okay.
when we have teamed up with the Tourism Authority to bring in the international media, showcase our product to the world, and then, as I said, also have the mass bands, the FETs, collaborating with us to promote Sugar Mass. It's a very delicate balance,
Mm-hmm.
Doc, because you hear individuals, you see people comment on maintaining the traditional aspects,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course the more contemporary newness
Mm-hmm.
is what individuals come in. The carnival lovers come in far. They come in for the fets. They come in to play mass. And, we had many people comment on the fact that we had brought the Miss St. Kitts and Nevis Queen pageant forward on the calendar. And
Yeah, it
people,
came forward at least a week, right?
yeah, we were unable to see it. We did our research over the past several years, and we are realizing more and more that a lot of people who um, come in for carnival. They come in for that last power week,
Oh, okay.
and we have been trying every year to make sure that we get as many private events as well as mass pushed into that last week, because people don't have that endless time off from work,
Exactly.
etc. So
Exactly.
about balancing the economics, balancing the contemporary aspect of sugar mass, and still maintaining the traditional aspect. And I think that we to date have been able to do it successfully. You look at places like Trinidad, you look at places like St. Lucia, where that traditional aspect every year is diminishing. And we have to continue to try to maintain that delicate balance, because we know that that is so important to really what sugar mass is. So that is something that we have as a committee to continue to do in collaboration with the Creative Economy, the Ministry of Creative Economy, who are responsible for sugar mass, as well as responsible for all of the folklore activities in St. Kitts and Nevis.
It's an interesting point that you just made, and thank you for giving that highlight. And the change in the calendar, I think, is really good, because at the end of the day, the shows are more from a local feel. Foreigners coming in for a party or a fete would not have that sort of affinity or connection. So I think that was an amazing move. It's going to take some adjustment for people to get used to,
Definitely.
but I think it was an
Definitely.
amazing move. And I like that Power Week. I like that concept from, like, a few days before New Year's, and then you go right down to last lap. I like
Yes,
that, and it gives people a tangible time period of when to come, when to show up.
exactly.
Uh,
Exactly. And this year, Doc, we were able to do an economic impact assessment,
okay.
and we just got some preliminary numbers
Oh,
in over this weekend. And I had an opportunity to just to look briefly at the impact,
okay.
because again, we we know, yes, we say it every year that Carnival makes such a significant impact, and Carnival is the biggest national event on the calendar, but we have to show our numbers. Like, in order for us to know our next steps, we have to know where we're coming from. And I think that, having that economic impact assessment done is so critical to every event, and especially major events, to know whether it is really worth it. Yes, we can say, we had an increase in airlift and in passengers coming in. We can say that our attendance for our events is on the rise, etc. But without the numbers to support it, we are unable to recognize where we are going.
Okay.
We are unable to lobby for more money for Carnival, for instance. We're unable to lobby for more money, whether it's our subvention from the federal government. We are unable to lobby for more sponsorship. So the economic impact assessment is critical for our next steps as it relates to sugar mass.
Nice. So, will that report be made public, or how would it be? How would the findings be disseminated?
Well, of course, once the report is finalized,
Okay.
we
Okay.
will present it to our minister,
Okay.
the Honorable Samuel Duggins. We will then present it to cabinet. And then, of course, I think it is critical for the general public to see the numbers, because numbers don't lie. So I think it is very important for the general public to understand better how much of an impact that sugar mass has on the federation.
Look, I want
And
to. I'm
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I'm saying, and it is critical, and it's a direct impact. So it's the fets, the carnival prepare, getting ready for carnival, what it costs, the mass bands, it's the hotels and
Mm-hmm,
food and
mm-hmm.
beverage, and all of these were analyzed by our team, who we engaged, and I think that is really, really critical for the overall sugar mass. How we lobby for sugar mass.
Can you tease? Do you have any teasers for us? Can
But
you?
what I can say is
Uh-huh.
that the direct impact of sugar mass is over $20 million over
Okay.
that 2 week period.
Okay.
And I think this is significant because our annual budget, when I say budget, our subvention that we
Mm-hmm.
get from the federal government is about 2.3 million.
Oh wow.
And that 2.3 million takes into consideration every single thing that you see happening in during the carnival. So from folklore to In the Spirit of Christmas to every show, um, every street activity in
Mm-hmm.
terms of getting the street activities up and running. So it is that subvention is quite small compared to what is
To
really
the
put
impact.
in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that the economic impact is critical, as I said before, to ensuring that in order for sugar mass to continue growing in leaps and bounds,
Uh-huh.
we have to have some more input, not only from the federal government, but sponsors,
Yeah.
gate
Yeah.
receipts,
Yeah.
etc. Our we really have to
You know,
step it up.
I think this report will. I want to commend you for even initiating this. Actually, I think when we first talked about it, you would realize I was surprised that this wasn't like a standard practice because we're putting millions of dollars towards Carnival and same thing for Music Festival. We need one for that as well. But what the findings do though, it tells us how to prepare. It allows you
Ab-
now to go to other sponsors that might feel they won't get their money's worth and say, hey, look,
Yeah,
the data shows otherwise. Right?
exactly.
So that opens
Exactly.
up so much opportunity, I think, for the committee and for Sugar Mass on a whole. So I commend you for that. I'm excited to see it because the contribution to economic development is without a doubt known. As you just said, the direct impact, $20 million over a week. That's significant, and it's probably even way more than that when we look at the multiplier effect, right? That
Exactly.
comes from that.
Exactly.
Yeah, we can't just look
Exactly.
at the spend; we have to look at the
Exactly.
effect.
That's just the direct and the
Hmm.
multiplier effects. Exactly. You realize how much more than that it is. So, I mean, I'm excited about
So,
that
so that means you have to
because
come back on the show, Shannon, because we're gonna got to talk about this report whenever it's tabled, and you could bring maybe some others
absolutely,
on your committee.
absolutely, and I can't wait for it to be because I'm really excited about it.
Uh huh.
And, one of the things that the report brought out as well is that we had about almost 40% of the individuals participating in Sugar Mass
Hmm.
this year were foreigners.
Really?
And absolutely. And it would, of course, our numbers from the airlift,
Uh huh.
our numbers from SCASPA, the numbers that we got from SCASPA were over 16,000 passengers arrived through the RLB
Hmm.
International Airport during that sugar mass period. Of course, it's not all
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
attributed to sugar mass. However, if you look at the numbers from previous years, you realize again that significant increase. You look at FETs. I mean, St. Kitts is a small country. You go to FETs, you look at FET pictures, you
Hmm.
realize that, wait, but I'm not recognizing, half the people in the events. And that actually warms my heart because you realize at that point, we realize, wow, what we're doing is working because of the amount of foreigners who came in 2024 for Sugar Mass. And again, the numbers don't lie. And we had about 40% of individuals who were attending FETs playing mass
Hmm.
were from overseas.
The mileage that we're getting, even just by incorporating people like Trini Jungle Juice, that Bayesian one,
Asian
Bayesian
too.
Tube,
Asian too.
all these other
Yes.
influencers. I think I was at Meltaway and I saw this soca influencer that I follow on TikTok, and it's incredible to see,
Yes.
but the arguments I heard, I remember Juve Morning, the one that's just gone. Um,
Yeah.
and I myself, I'm guilty of this comment as well. I felt they were too much bouillon, right? That's me.
Mhm.
I came to St. Kitts and I knew more bouillon music than I knew our local music. That's
Mhm.
crazy. I knew more
Mhm.
about that song from Trilogy than I knew about the road match. So
Mhm.
from your perspective of as a chairwoman, and you know these late releases, I want to commend you all for putting some deadlines, like for consideration for road match as an
Yeah.
example. But don't you think
Correct.
the mass bands, the musicians, even some of the promoters, you don't think they're too late? I actually
Well,
find some of
I
it somewhat disrespectful to
yeah,
customers.
I think that more has to be done as it relates to the bands.
Mm-hmm.
St. Kitts is one of the very few islands that still have
Band culture.
the
Mm-hmm.
significant band culture,
Mm-hmm.
which we have to maintain. However, the bands the bands have to play their part,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's only so much that we can do. I mean, in terms of even for us to have to put a deadline for submission of songs for road match, that
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be.
That
I
shouldn't be
mean,
at
you
all.
should
No.
want to be able to come out early, promote your music, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Booyah music, it just has so happened that this year in particular, 2024 in particular, the Booyah music has caught on not only up north, like here, but
Mm-hmm.
all throughout the Caribbean. You look at Trinidad Carnival that's going on now, and all leading up, you see the Booyah
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
artists part of the sets leading up to Carnival,
That is
etc.
true.
So for the first time, we are seeing that bouillon music infiltrate Trinidad. And you know, once you are able to infiltrate Trinidad with your music, you
Mm.
technically have arrived.
Exactly.
What we have recognized with our bands is that yes, our bands travel, etc., but there are more to places that have that large Kittitian
Festivals.
population
Okay.
and
Okay.
Kittitian population that appreciates
Uh huh.
the wilders type of music. So we really have to do more. And when I say we, again, collaboration. We have to do more with getting the mass bands to play music, well, to produce music and to put their music out early,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You should have bands out by September.
Yes.
You know, and our deadline of the first week in November is late.
Yeah.
Uh, and then changing the overall way in which, for instance, our road match is judged. That has been a discussion on the table for the past 2 years with the bands.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's not only about the bands because then you have the the mass bands, the troops, who and the Juve troops, who again are attracting a significant, as you see from the numbers I said earlier, like 40% from overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And the troops' argument is that look, not everybody wants to hear St. Kitts music. They come to St. Kitts, they want to hear a cross section of music.
Yeah.
The troops, the Juve troops, the Parade troops, all have their international DJs. Is now a major thing, bringing in quite a large section of international DJs playing music that the participants, the masqueraders want to
Mm-hmm.
hear. So again, it's finding that balance. Like, our troops basically said to us this year when we had the discussion of advancing the road match, not only for Juve, but also for the road, basically saying, look, we don't want to be hearing the same songs all the time on the road. We want to hear songs
Oh.
other
Okay.
than St. Kitts music.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to have road match just on both days, Juve and Parade, it would mean that you are limiting the music that our revelers want to hear. So
Yes.
again, it is having that advanced discussion, like from now,
Mm-hmm.
with the Juve bands, with the mass bands, with the bands themselves, and figuring out collectively how do we assist the bands with their marketing and promotion of their music
I
and
think
getting the music there.
I think because Bouillon, the music has not changed. I went to school in
No,
Texas with a hell of a
no,
lot of Dominicans. The music hasn't
yes,
changed, but what I think they've done, they've
no,
made subtle adjustments that, and it's like they found that formula to make
yes,
take their culture to the rest of the region and now by extension the rest of the world. And I feel that's something
yes,
we could do. We look like at an Akai, right? And that
yes,
type of approach to music and approach to
yes,
sound. And his songs are now in a lot of these popular DJs rotation and their popular
correct,
mixes. And we weren't getting
correct,
that from the traditional approach to music. So as Sugar Mass
correct,
changes, it also creates an
correct,
opportunity for our approach to even what we consider to be wireless, our genre music,
yes,
to also find that formula and adjust. Saying it isn't just
yes.
the market, right?
But what you find as well too is that our individual artists, our soca artists,
Mm-hmm.
are becoming increasingly popular,
Yes.
right? So you have, like, for instance, as you said, the Akai. You have, even though like Ruckus plays in
Mm-hmm.
Grandmasters, you would have fets just having Ruckus and David House alone. You recognize that a lot during Carnival.
Mm-hmm.
You would realize that the fet would not have the band,
That
but
is
would have
true.
just
That
the
is true.
they would just pull the two acts. You see Mention performing alone, and not
With
with New
Miller,
Vibe.
mention and Miller, yeah.
Yeah, Mention and Miller. So you're seeing that gradual change in the overall way in which we are promoting our music as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be interesting for to see how it goes for 2025. But you're seeing again smaller fets with the pulling the soca artists. You had the rise again of the soca monarch competition. So
Mm-hmm.
you're seeing more and more soca artists becoming increasingly popular. So again, I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves in 2025 for both our soca artists and our bands. But there, as you said, the subtle adjustments need to be made to
Mm-hmm.
ensure that Sugar Mass music is not just local,
And
but it really catches on overseas,
it
internationally.
just it's so much opportunity because 40% is nothing to sneeze at, and that's 40% foreigners that's gonna go tell their friends. Everybody's gonna tell two or three, four people about it. Now we're included in some of the biggest influencers like Global Carnivalista and so on. In her carnival schedule, I think she's been to Saint Kitts like 2 3 times,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah,
so
he's
the
there all
appeal
the time.
is there, and
And again, if you look at, again, just a hint and a teaser from our EIA summary,
mhm,
is that the majority of visitors heard about Sugar Mass through friends and family and individuals,
there you go.
56%.
Oh wow, okay.
So again, individuals who would have come here before for Sugar Mass, their friends, their family, and that is how the appeal, that is how they found out about Sugar Mass. Not by Sugar Mass advertising or
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, social media, etc., but the majority was through
A friend.
through
Mm.
friend and a family. And we have, again, why it is so critical to have this economic impact assessment, because we again have to look at ways in which we could continue to encourage individuals who have been here previously for Sugar Mass to spread the word about St. Kitts and Nevis Carnival.
Uh, I want to just remind the listening audience, if you guys want to jump in on the conversation, feel free to call in to the studio and ask Shannon a question. I'll just contribute to the discussion. But Shannon, so far, look, I truly appreciate your time so far, and I'm loving this conversation because you're giving me so many incredible ideas. I don't know who I should ask. Whenever this report is tabled and you go through your process, you know what I would love as an economist and my economics background and just my purview of data. I would love the data. I could do some amazing econometric modeling on that and just really try to look at impact another way because I'm not sure the approach for this assessment And so that will determine whether or not even having the data makes sense. But sometimes econometric analysis could allow us to even learn a bit more than traditional like cost benefit or IO assessment. So I'm excited for this report. But let me ask you as chairwoman,
And absolutely, I'm looking forward to sharing it with you once it's tabled.
yes, what's your long-term vision for Sugar Mass? Because you can't
You
be
know,
chairwoman forever, right? You've done 5 years.
absolutely not. And every year is my last. Every single year is my last. But I really think that we're onto something good. And I think that we will continue to grow. We have that unique benefit of having Sugar Mass. It's the last carnival and the first carnival
Oh yes,
technically on the
that's
carnival calendar,
amazing for marketing.
right? It's the only thing though, Doc, is that the time of year that we have our Sugar Mass.
Yeah.
In no way we're trying to change the time of year, but
Mhm.
in time of year, it's the season. It's technically the season.
Mhm.
So, for instance, flights are very expensive.
Mhm.
We always hear that one of the issues that people have with coming to St. Kitts during that period is the flights.
It's
You know,
expensive as hell.
it's extremely expensive that time of year. So these are some of the things that would make individuals think twice. Whereas the carnivals that are during the summer months are more attractive sometimes because of simple economics. It's
Mhm.
easier to get to, cheaper to get to. But I definitely think that St. Kitts and Nevis Carnival can match up to any of the carnivals around the region or even better. Like, I see I see a number of individuals from St. Kitts now in Dominica
Mhm. Mhm.
this weekend for carnival. And I have, messaged and said, how is it? I've messaged Tero, who is out there promoting St. Kitts as a
Always. I'm so proud of her,
cultural
man.
ambassador
So proud of her,
in
yeah, man.
Dominica. I message Tero, how is it? I message individuals I see on their status that they're in Dominica. And again, of course, not being biased, but at the end of the day, they're having a whale of a time. But at the end of the day, I think, can match up to so many of
Mhm.
the um, other island carnivals. And when you see places like Trinidad becoming so expensive, to go to Trinidad for carnival, by the time you get your FET tickets, you're
Hotel
spending
costs are ridiculous.
20, nearly $20,000 for a weekend in Trinidad
Yeah.
for carnival. You see more and more people coming to the smaller islands
Mhm.
to carnival. So I think that we have to capitalize on that and encourage individuals to partake in some of the smaller islands carnivals. I saw an article recently from Antigua saying that in 2024 their visitor arrivals, etc., were up for their carnival. I spoke to someone part of the planning committee for Dominica, and they said as well that this carnival, Mass Dominique, their numbers are up as well. We
Okay.
see places in St. Lucia, their numbers were up significantly for St. Lucia Carnival in
Yeah, I know
2024. So it's
Spice
just
Mass was
about
up as well.
exactly. So it's just about us um, continuing to encourage those who would have come last year and years gone by to tell a friend and continue to market to those individuals and collaborating with FETs and specifically collaborating with the mass bands. Because again, when you hear of Islands Carnival, people think of the days on the road, and
Mhm.
those parade bands are very critical to the overall success of our sugar mass, in addition to all of the other stakeholders. But in terms of encouraging revelers, masqueraders to
Mhm.
come in from overseas and what we want to see, heads in beds and economic and spend, we want to continue to collaborate specifically with the mass bands to get more and more people in every year.
It,
And it's just about creating a model, right, Doc?
uh-huh.
It's about creating a
Well,
model,
I
and that
have a
is
suggestion for this model for you, right? In terms of airlift, as an example, because we see Trinidad Carnival, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Epic Carnival, where they basically
yes,
rented out the cruise ship and they took it from San
yes,
Juan,
I saw that.
right?
I
And
saw
and
that.
mainly it goes back to an economic impact assessment, where they saw
Mm-hmm.
even if we charge X, and mind you, the prices are heavier. Like an
Hi, I
interior
saw that.
room was like $3,800 per person. But when you think of the value add, all the food, all the drinks, fet tickets, etc., maybe something like that. Not a cruise ship. We're not on that level yet.
Yes,
Maybe that's where we'll
yes,
get eventually. But
yes,
planes, right?
yes,
The same way we charter planes for elections, we could charter planes. We have central points, Miami, New York, and have people meet there. They could get cheap domestic flights, especially that time of the
yes,
year, because being Christmas, flights are actually cheap.
yes,
No one travels,
yes,
right?
yes.
And then from there we organize cheap, affordable charters and get people in.
Yes, definitely. That is definitely something that we can look at. I mean, you even look at music festival. We see, rooms booked out 6 months in advance. Difficult to get room in St. Kitts. Now people are looking in Nevis, etc. Airlift
Mm-hmm.
being booked out. So again, with that limited airlift, definitely we have to look at other opportunities to get and collaborate again with the FET promoters, the bands, etc. And what I also want to do is, collaborate more with the bands and artists. You look at other islands and the way in which their artists promote their islands.
Mm-hmm.
You look at, Trinidad, the St. Lucia. You see St. Lucia appointed a number of cultural ambassadors,
Mm-hmm.
specifically for Carnival. Carnival ambassadors, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
really promoting their music and promoting the island, not just promoting the island by going out and performing, but really promoting their carnival by, whether it's social media, etc. And I think that that is something that should be standard. I don't think it's something that necessarily you have to be paid for, because at the end of the day, you're promoting yourself as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I think that our artists really have done a lot and need to continue doing more to push our sugar mass as
I
well.
have a suggestion for you as a prize for Soca Monarch, right? And thank you for bringing back Groovy, because Groovy runs the world of Soca right now. So that Groovy segment coming back was huge. I would love, though, if one of the prizes could be a paid for full on high quality music video. Let's start to, repackage. Like, we have amazing songs, and even if they get them on Spotify, the few that get them up, but there's no content of it, of a proper official video on YouTube anywhere, right? And
That's
then
true.
and they're not even like I'm still trying to find New Vibes album on Spotify.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, one of the regulations for road match this year was that our road match contenders had to upload their music to Metal.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
some Metal. So again, even that should not be. We had artists saying, "Oh, we don't want nobody, thief our music. Um,
Oh wow.
we don't want our music free out there." But at the end of the day, it's such a major promotion for you as an
Exactly.
artist. Somebody attaching your music to a post on social media or whatever it is, uploading it, as you said, on Spotify. It shouldn't be us like demanding that you upload
But
this music, because it's such a it's for me, it's something major for you and for promotion. You look at a
yes.
band like New Vibes. New Vibes does not have their music uploaded to Metal. Like, you cannot go and say, let me pull up a Dolly from
Mm-hmm.
2024,
Mm-hmm.
attach it to
A video,
attach
yeah.
it attach it to something that you post. And this is, again, this is the way in which music is promoted throughout the world. So again, for us, it is, we should not have that as a regulation. That should be something that is
Standard.
automatic.
It should just be standard.
Absolutely. 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 So again, it is about having these discussions very, very early, like now,
Uh-huh.
with our road match contenders, with our Soca Monarch artists, with our bands, and anybody who is involved in the industry, to help them to understand how important it is, not only for us but for them,
Mm-hmm.
um, to do these things and to promote. I know everything is a cost, and I know sometimes the
But
argument is, well, we don't have no money, and
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult, and it's costly to produce, etc. But then the rewards will be so beneficial,
I
right?
agree. These are
When
loss
it's,
leaders, right? Like in business, we call these loss leaders.
yes,
Sunk
yes,
costs. Because you need to produce and have a nicely published and polished track, right? To get it out there, to get it promoted, get it on radio stations. You need to do like what you just said, upload to Meta, because I remember it was Upset Squad. They one of their songs from not this carnival, the carnival before, went viral, right? With a dance challenge. And that kind of thing for such a young band like Upset Squad, that's just gonna boost your popularity. Because guess what? When those 40% foreigners come in, they know Upset Squad. They don't know Mention. You know what I mean?
correct.
And it's
And they don't have, they hear the music on the road,
uh-huh.
and then they're trying to attach the music to like their uploads, even our influencers, etc., and are unable to do it because the
Right,
music
right.
is not
It's
present.
not
And for
available.
us, again, is a bit disappointing because here we are. We want to have memories from Sugar Mass. We want people to tag us and tag
Mm-hmm.
Sugar Mass
Mm-hmm.
53 or whatever it was, tag the artist, um, upload this song, but then they hear the song, they love it during Sugar Mass, and then the song is nowhere to be found again. They can't find the song, and then it just dies down until the next Sugar
Well,
Mass.
I hope Creative Economy steps up as a ministry and continues, because I know they had that big conference last year. I hope they have that
Yes,
again, and also mini conferences, because I think sometimes a lack of education and awareness. But also, though, and this is probably part of a bigger conversation, I remember maybe 5 years ago, I had a buddy out to Trinidad. He went to Silicon Valley, got a couple $1 million to build an app, right? And his focus was going to be soca. So he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I want some small island music. I want some music from St. Kitts. Attach me to some artists." I remember reaching out to some people, Shannon. I was telling them, "Hey, get involved. This is a great way to promote." And you know what they tell me outright? Just similar to your comment. Well, how much I gain pay? And I'm like, this is a Trinidadian making a soca app that Trinidadians are going to use. And if you, like you mentioned earlier, if you break into that Trinidadian market, you've made it. We think of the small island people like, may he rest in peace, Ricardo Drew, that broke into the Trinidadian market from Antigua. And I know he has some familial representation there, but then you see Pumpa out of the Virgin Islands that just took it over. And as you mentioned, the Dominican artist that's also in Trinidad as well, and Asabanton and so on. Like, that's where I want to see our acts reach. And maybe it's just a lack of knowledge. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
yeah, it's definitely something that the creative economy uh Department of Creative Economy Ministry
Ministry, yeah.
needs to definitely look at and work alongside the artists. And as you said, it could be lack of, I don't know, but we have to, people love our music. As you
Yes.
said, I was looking at Bejan Troop just, I think, yesterday or day before Dominica Carnival. And one of the songs that was playing to a post that they made was like an Akai. I think it was Bucket Set it to this day. This is like how many years later,
It's no
right?
still relevant. Yeah.
Still, still popular,
Mm-hmm.
right? Still popular. So, we have to continue, and the artists have to continue to push their music outside of St. Kitts. St. Kitts is not the end all and be all. The priority should be to encourage others from around the region, around the world, to fall in love with your music just as we have,
Exactly.
but we can't fall in love with it without you doing your part to promote it. And one of the easiest ways to push and promote it is to ensure that it is available for individuals who want to upload it
Yes, I, I,
in
I
whatever
agree.
form.
And then that takes us into the whole intellectual property and copyrights and residuals. And so I'm going to do a whole episode and bring in GN and bring in some artists. So I appreciate that insight, because it really speaks towards the globalization of sugar mass. And it's like you said, it's no longer, even though, for example, we have our graphic artists that could compete globally with cheaper people doing flyers, and as an example, there's still globalization even in our music, and there's globalization even in our mass bands, because we see the integration of like Freak Mass and some of those other people. Now, foreigners are owning sections in our local mass bands. It's just incredible. The last 5 years has been incredible to see, and you've been a part of that leadership. So, my last question to you: when you think about your legacy as chairwoman, what do you hope to be remembered for? Because you said this is your last.
Well, I said last year was my last, actually. And I haven't made that decision on 2025. It's still very early.
Okay. All right.
But I did say 2024 was my last, and 2025, we'll see where it goes. But nevertheless, I think that, Sugar Mass and Carnival and events will always be I will always be a part of. I may not be specifically the chair, but I may be working in the background or doing whatever to ensure that our carnival continues to grow, because I'm not the only one that can do it, and my team is, no one is, everyone is replaceable, right? Despite what so many people may think, with whatever we're speaking about. But I think that for me, I want to be recognized and seen as an individual who was part of a team, right? Who basically, I don't know if revolutionized is the word, but really put Sugar Mass in a position to go head to head with any of the other regional carnivals. And I think for me that it is most critical. And I was saying earlier is that I am in the process, or we are in the process of putting together like literally a manual that can actually be part of my legacy. Because again, you have, whether it is a festival or whether it is Sugar Mass or whether it is a specific event, you see that we have, everything is in our heads and nothing is on paper. So, for someone else to be able to come in and run with it, it is sometimes very difficult. Yes. I think we want to make sure that Sugar Mass continues, as part of the growth, is ensuring that there is a seamless transition when it comes to leadership. And for me, it is about putting together that document that can go, can last for the next 20 years as it relates to the planning of Sugar Mass. And that is what should be done, I think, for every major event, no matter what it may be, so that you have that seamless transition and that there's no marked difference in the way in which Sugar Mass is executed. And I think that is very critical.
I want to thank you so much for your time today. That's it for our discussion on the economics of Carnival. And we had so much bigger conversation around that as well. I enjoyed learning about you and what brought you here and the impact that you've had over 3 decades. That's just amazing. And you continue to make it look so easy, but we know it's difficult. So to the listening audience, we had it here. We had Shannon Hawley, a powerhouse of a female in leadership. She's shaping our cultural industries, specifically Sugar Mass. Today we explored how Carnival fuels the economy, how it promotes tourism and sustains local creatives while facing challenges of maybe accessibility. The key takeaways from conversation: Carnival isn't just about revelry. It's a serious economic force that requires strategic leadership to thrive. As we celebrate Women's History Month, though, it's inspiring to see women like Shannon Hawley leading the way, proving that culture and commerce can coexist. Now, so thank you again, Shannon, for sharing your insights, your experiences. And to you, our listeners, thank you for tuning in. What do you
Thank you.
I want y'all to ponder. What do you think the future of Carnival is to you? And leave a comment, send a question, and let's continue this dialogue. Have a great rest of the week to the listening audience in Sugar City and Queen City. Have an amazing week and enjoy the rest of your Monday. And once again, this is Money Matters. And don't forget, it takes financial knowledge to know that you're making financial mistakes. So go easy on yourself.